Welcome to Thriving Through, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the world of independent consulting and shows you exactly what you need to do to build a successful consulting practice. I'm AJ, I'm your host, and each week I dive deep into the real life stories of self-employed consultants who have transformed their expertise into thriving businesses. Now, this isn't about glossy success stories or overnight miracles. This is about the grit, the strategies, and the resilience it takes to build a consulting practice that is not only financially rewarding, but also personally fulfilling. From navigating the feast or famine cycle to landing dream clients, from managing the unique challenges of entrepreneurship to creating systems that support your business, I'm covering it all. Each episode features a candid conversation with consultants who've been where you are. We share their stories, their insights, and the hard-earned lessons that transform their business into a thriving practice. So whether you're just starting out, looking to level up as a consultant, or wanting to reignite your passion for consulting, this podcast is for you. It's your weekly dose of inspiration, insight, and strategies that will pump you up and motivate you for the rest of the week. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and get ready to learn, get inspired, and most importantly, to thrive. Welcome to the Thriving Through podcast. Today, my guest is David Balbi. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, AJ.
Tell us a little bit about how long you've been a self-employed consultant and what your business is all about.
Okay, well, to go back a little while, I was a PGA golf professional for 40 years, but I was always involved and interested in technology, whether that was, computer things or motion analysis or whatever. And for about the last 10 years, I've had a small agency with a friend who's actually based in Australia, and we started off doing websites and things like that, and then we sort of evolved into lead generation. And as AI started to get more popular a couple of years ago, we started to lean more in that direction because we realized that especially for small businesses, the whole subject of AI was pretty intimidating. And so from a consulting standpoint, I guess if you include my golf business, I've been a consultant of kinds for about 40 years, but more in business.
So how long have you had what would you sort of categorize your business as?
Most of my business these days, it sort of comes under the broad umbrella of AI consulting, but that could be anything from helping businesses implement AI tools for lead generation, or creating newsletters or blogs, or actual AI agents to help them within their business. It really encompasses anything that a small business does, really. And looking at ways to implement more efficient strategies, really, to make their business either more efficient or more profitable, or maybe even find ways to save more hours, which they can either use for whatever outside things, or maybe they can use it to service more clients.
Okay. And who is your target audience? Who is your ideal client?
Well, so I could say any small business, but particularly with my partner in Australia, we found over the last 6 months that a lot of business coaches have started to become our clients, both from a standpoint of running their own consultancy, but also they found that their own clients are starting to ask them, well, what should we be doing about AI? And of course, generally they have no idea. And so they're sort of subcontracting that work to us.
Okay. And how would you define the problems that your clients have that you solve?
Um, I would say the number one is time management. Being able to use AI tools to to sometimes to create reports, or we had one consultant who was specialized in the manufacturing business, and he was telling us about a particular efficiency report that he'd been doing, and he'd spent 2 days creating this report, and we asked him for sort of broad strokes of what he created, and we created something in 15 minutes with AI that he said, oh, that's better than the one I did. So
Oh, okay.
he was actually completely blown away by, the quality of what we produced. And of course, like anything else with AI, the garbage in, garbage out rule applies. So, you have to be able to prompt correctly and be willing to spend some time sometimes in editing, and other times, I mean, it doesn't require very much, but that's, in terms of being able to make people more efficient and have better use of their time, that's really, I think, where we excel.
Okay. Could you share what initially sparked your interest in AI and what keeps you so passionate about staying on the cutting edge of this rapidly evolving field?
Um, well, AI in some form has been around for a number of years, but over the last 2 years, really starting with ChatGPT, um, to be able to see the quality of content that was produced in just a few minutes was really eye-opening. And so um, it's both exciting and in some ways scary because it evolves so fast. I mean, I spend at least 3 hours a day just in research, looking at new tools, and sometimes reviewing the things that my clients are using, because sometimes we're going to update it or recommend a new tool that's going to do a better job. So it's it's not something you can walk away from for 2 weeks and come back and expect everything to be just the same. So I think that's the thing I find most stimulating about it.
Okay. So the how do you manage? So you spend 3 hours a day on just keeping up with what's new in AI.
Mhm.
How do you juggle that with the other hats that you wear as a self-employed consultant?
Well, so I would say in an average day, as I said, probably about 3 hours on research, somewhere between an hour and 2 hours talking to new clients or new potential clients and finding out about their businesses. And then the rest of my day, which is probably another 3 or 4 hours, will actually be implementation, or we have some developers that we work with, so we subcontract some of the work out now, just because we have so much. And so things that I can do, I sometimes find that it's more efficient to let other people do that. And there are a lot of sort of subsets, sub niches within AI, and there are people that are better than me at that. Even though we're now in the realm of the no code agent, so you don't have to be a computer coder to be able to do this, but there are still some things that it's better to leave it to somebody that does this particular thing every day.
Right, right. Well, that's an important skill, I guess, for self-employed consultants to have, is to know when to do it themselves and when to let someone else do the
Yeah,
work.
yeah, yeah.
And a lot of self-employed consultants, I think, especially early on, fall into the trap of thinking that they have to do it all.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that learning the skill of delegation is very important. You know, I think at first I had that, well, you know, it's kind of a, if you want a thing done well, do it yourself. Um, but doing it well and doing it, I hesitate to say perfectly, but you know, more efficiently, is sometimes better left to somebody else. But and I think that certainly with a lot of my clients that are self-employed consultants, um, they're they're very wary of that. You know, they've often been in a situation where they have done everything themselves for a long time. And so to let not only another person, an AI agent, do the work for them, is kind of scary because you know everybody's heard, oh well, we've heard that AI hallucinates, or oh, I read a story about the attorney who, you know, got fined by the judge because he submitted a brief that had completely bogus cases cited in it. Um, but we are now moving, there's a new term that you may have heard, RAG, um, which is retrieval augmented generative AI. And so you can add a knowledge base so that the AI will only actually access the knowledge base that you have certified to be, you know, the truth, if you like. And
Mhm.
so that's becoming more and more prevalent now, and also models that access multiple different AI models to get a sort of a consensus, if you like. So with that, we're seeing much less. I mean, you can actually completely get rid of hallucination if you're using a knowledge base. So those things are starting to make people feel a lot more comfortable using AI.
Okay. How do you help your clients distinguish between the AI tools that will genuinely improve their business versus those shiny objects that might not deliver meaningful results?
Right, right. Um, well, I don't know the exact number, but I would say that I have um, had over 500 test accounts with different AI tools. And so I'm never going to recommend something that I haven't actually used myself, and that I can't show somebody some real world output from that tool. Because you know, there are, you know, maybe 20 new AI tools come out every day. And I have access to libraries that have several thousand different AI tools in there. And so really that's my job, is to come up with the optimum tool for them, so that they don't go off, you know, as you say, chasing the shiny object. And frequently people say, oh, well, I know I'm using this, but what about this one? You know, and it's like, well, yes, but at some point that might be appropriate, or well, you know, that came out yesterday, and let's wait and see if they stick around, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's important, for most businesses to have somebody that knows enough about the business. I mean, AI, it's here to stay. I read a quote this morning. Somebody said, if you don't work with AI in 2 years from now, you'll be working for AI.
Oh,
So,
okay.
you know, it's one of those, you'd better get on the AI train because you know, it's here to stay. And it's really moving forward at breakneck pace. So if you were trying to run your consultancy business and at the same time stay current with all the AI tools, I don't think you could do it. I mean, as I said, I spend 3 hours a day doing that for you, so you don't have to. So that's that's my niche.
Okay. It argues the case for having you call yourself an AI agent?
Well, a consultant, I mean, user, and so those answering. So,
Okay. What do you see as the biggest opportunity for independent consultants to leverage AI in their own practices?
um, boy, that's a big question. I think that most most consultants that I talk to, or small business owners in general, um, it's always about new business, right? It's about making sure that you have enough new business in the pipeline or new clients or whatever. And so leveraging AI to reach out to other businesses to create the early connections, to find out who are the real people and who are just the tire kickers. I think that's one of the big things. And as I said before, I think the time management aspect of it, being able to use your time more efficiently, one way or another, it seems like every business coach is creating some kind of content, some kind of report, some kind of information that they're giving to their customers. And so helping to create that. Also, looking for patterns. Sometimes you can get too close to an issue, and being able to access your own database, your own FAQ, if you like, for your business to see what's helped other people in the same position. It's nobody can remember every conversation they've had with every business owner over the last 10 years.
Mhm.
But AI can remember it.
Okay. Wow, that's good to know. When we talked earlier, you mentioned the business coaches that you talk to are concerned about AI taking away portions of their business.
Mm-hmm.
How do you advise them to adapt their business models in response to AI advancements?
Well, as I said, you can't afford to get left behind. If you're not implementing AI, I think you're going to be in trouble. One of the coaches that we work with in Australia was concerned because he's a pretty high ticket guy. I mean, he charges between $5,000 and $10,000 a month for his services, and he's very sought after. But he was starting to see that some of the things that he was doing could be done with AI. So he was worried about, well, what happens if all of a sudden I'm only able to charge $2,000. And we said, well, that would be fine if you could spend only 20% of your time with that, working on that particular client. Because even though he may only spend 2 or 4 hours a month with somebody, he's spending another 20 hours actually working, behind the scenes, if you like, for that person. And so I think it's kind of, adapt or die really is going to be the motto for AI. And so people that say, oh, well, I'll wait a year or I'll wait 2 years. Boy, that's a scary proposition, because I just think that with the speed that AI is evolving, even people that have a very, very specific skill set. You can train AI to do a lot of those things. I mean, he's never going to take over the personal interaction. You know, there's a lot of nuance that goes into a conversation with the client, and certainly there are some things that are more personal, but a lot of the heavy lifting can be done by AI. And I think it really just is going to make any coach a better coach. You know, I think again, I saw an article the other day that said AI is going to turn any good coach into an excellent coach. So
Okay, so don't fear AI. Look at it in your example. You talked about, that business coach might spend 3 or 4 hours with their client during a week, but 20 hours doing other client related stuff.
yeah,
If he can cut down the amount of time spent on that and
hmm
improve the quality of it,
yeah,
then he's providing a better product for the client.
yeah, exactly. In a fraction of the time.
Right.
You know, I
And
mean,
that's
not,
important.
yeah,
Fraction of
you
time.
know, not every instance, you know, like the one guy that spent 2 hours doing the report that we, you know, created a better one in 15 minutes. I mean, it's not always going to be that dramatic, but I would say that a lot of tasks can be reduced to only taking 10 to 20% of what it used to take, which is significant. You know, so whether that extra time goes to quality of life enhancement or it goes to more customers, um, and and again, depending upon the businesses, you know, like we have people now that are, because they've recommended their customer implement a certain AI tool or agent, whatever it happens to be, they're getting more referrals because, you know, that guy talks to his friends at the, you know, at the golf club or the tennis club or whatever, and says, "Oh man, we got this fantastic thing," and they say, "Oh, my business coach hasn't told me about that." You know,
Uh-huh.
so it you know, the people like to talk about the advancements that their coaches have brought to them. So a lot of people are finding that they're getting a lot more referrals that way. So, you
Okay.
know, so they're giving a better service. They're getting new customers basically for free, which is always a good way to do it because typically
Exactly.
prospecting costs something. And it's an example. This is some technology that's not it's not out yet, but it's, you know, this is sort of a demo. But it's an instance where they took some business data, put it into the AI and asked it to not only analyze the data, but create charts and put it into a website.
Oh, wow.
And so I mean, it's mind blowing when you look at it. It's like, oh, that you know, that's something that um, would take, even if you had the technical expertise to do it and create the graphics and put it onto a website. It would, I can't imagine it would take you less than a day to do.
Right.
And it creates this site in just you know, two minutes. And that's, you know, that's a really great illustration of just, you know, how mind-blowing some of these new tools are. And we're really kind of only at the beginning as far as this is concerned.
So for consultants who are just starting to explore AI for
Hmm
their clients,
hmm
what would you recommend as a starting point?
Um, well, you know, obviously it's moving it's moving at warp speed, and you can't afford to get left behind. I would say that anybody could go, I mean, if they just want to sort of dip their toe into AI, if you like, you could start with any of the, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or Mistral or Gemini or whatever, and just do a search for AI tools for a particular task, and look at that. But then, really, unless you have a lot of time on your hands, I think you've got to reach out to somebody that has some expertise that can point you in the right direction. Because, A, you can be chasing the shiny objects, and B, it can be completely overwhelming. Which tool, because there are some free tools that are phenomenally good. And there are other things that are paid tools that aren't that great, so you can definitely, you could look at something and say, oh yeah, that's only $20 a month. I'll use that. Well, okay. But there might be a free tool that does it just as well. So it is a little daunting about how to get started, but at least if you look at, 3 or 4 tools that AI has recommended to you, because at least the good thing is it's not recommending itself. There's no self-interest in it. If it says, look at this, look at this, look at this, it's not like they're getting a commission if you buy it. So I think anybody that says, oh no, I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to leave that till later, is making a huge mistake, because I have not come across anybody yet where there wasn't some benefit to using AI in their practice.
Okay.
And whether it's a little bit of time saved or a lot, differs from person to person. But so far, I haven't come across anybody where it was like, nope, sorry, AI can't help you. And at point, what are you spending time on?
Is that a good rule of thumb for self-employed consultants to when they're looking at, where AI might be able to help, is look at the things that are taking the most time?
Yes, especially if they're repetitive and they take a lot of time. If you look at the things that you do on a repetitive basis, and it may even be something like a tool that looks at your inbox and brings the important things to the top. I have an AI agent that I use that actually every morning when I wake up, in my inbox, it's gone out and summarized 20 different AI newsletters. So I can look at that, because oftentimes, the same 5 new tools are repeated over and over again. Well, I don't have to sort through all those things, so I can go and look at that and then say, okay, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. There's an article I want to read. And so just from that perspective, I've probably, taken an hour, and condensed it into a 5-minute read.
Nice.
So
That's great.
I mean, if you're gonna talk the talk, you got to walk the walk as well, right? So,
Yes. One last question.
yes.
As AI continues to evolve, how do you see the role of human consultants changing in the next decade?
Well, I think the good ones will get better. I think there'll probably be a I don't know what the right word is really, but a lot of people that are maybe not as good, are either going to go away or they're going to get better, because by using AI. I think they have to think about the amount of time they're spending with a client, how much they can charge the client. It's going to the role of the consultant is going to evolve. I think they can potentially be a lot more valuable to their business clients, and a lot more efficient in their own businesses. But I think, yeah, it definitely is an evolve or die scenario in a lot of industries, and I think business consultants or business coaches is one that will really be impacted. Accountants are being impacted hugely by AI, so I think every business is, and everybody better look at it. One way or another. Don't think that you can ignore it and it'll go away.
Right.
It's gonna get you.
It's not going away, and as you said, evolve or die.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, thank you so much
Hey, you're welcome.
for sharing a little insight into the world of AI and how it's evolving. And I appreciate you being on the podcast today. Well, that brings us to the end of another episode of Thriving Through. I hope today's conversation has given you not just inspiration, but practical, actionable insights that you can apply to your own consulting journey. Remember, building a thriving consulting practice isn't about following someone else's blueprint perfectly. It's about finding your own path and staying true to your vision while learning from those who've walked similar roads. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your biggest takeaway on LinkedIn and tag me. Leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps other independent consultants find our community and join this conversation. And don't forget to hit subscribe to ensure you never miss an episode. Each week, we'll bring you more honest conversations and practical strategies to help you build a consulting business that works for you. Until next time, keep pushing forward, stay curious, and remember, you're not just surviving in consulting, you're thriving through it.